So welcome to a new Game Stuff episode, and it's the last new Game Stuff episode of the year, and it's a big one. It's a big deal one because it's 50, number 50. I've done 50 of these episodes over the last 13 years doing the show, and I accidentally started to do them. Really, because one of my friends, Luke Moore's one, in Japan, had sent me a Turbo Duo. I'd bought it off him, and he'd send it over, and some PC Engine stuff and stuff like that. And I just wanted to show it on the show. And so I was like, well, how do I do that? And I'm like, I'll call it New Game Stuff. And so that's where it originated from. And then things that I would normally buy for myself, I thought, well, I'll show them. And it was a different kind of concept to do, definitely 13 years ago. And it was it's been one of those things, one of those episodes that I do that are my favorite to do. The New Game Stuff episodes are my most enjoyable episodes to do because I get to talk about all of the games that I bought that I really like and for the reasons why. I give reasons why. I don't just go, it's NHL hockey, this game, and put it down. I have a connection to every single thing I buy. I don't just buy things for the sake of it. I want them in my collection because there's something I like about them, and they usually go pretty deep, that's for sure. And let us start deep here with a game that I love, and I just got the soundtrack for, the vinyl for, and that is for Grandia, the Memorial Soundtrack box set. I could not believe it when this showed up. I'd been waiting months and months, and then I think a couple of weeks ago on YouTube I saw somebody unboxing it, and I'm like, oh, they're getting sent out. And this is the entire Grandia soundtrack, and it came even with this, I guess, a pencil board as they used to call them in Japan. I love it, and I love the artwork, and I'm so happy that I got to meet the man who did the artwork for a game I adore. But what I adore more than just the game was the music. And I think we've talked about it a lot on this channel, that it wasn't just regular music, it was this ambient sound effect music that played in the background while you played the game. And it's a very, very special game. It's a very, very meaningful game because it was the last RPG I finished in my parents' basement before I moved out. And that is 20 plus years ago now. And so, big place in my heart for Grandia. I love it. I cannot wait to unbox this and start playing the music. It's just like having Skies of Arcadia on vinyl is a really exciting thing. Having this is the same feeling for me. Another disc showed up that I ordered. Streets of Rage 4. Bare Knuckle 4. It even says it on the back there. Great artwork, I want to say. Really gorgeous looking stuff. This is one of my games of the year. It's a game that I never thought I would ever see come out. I never thought there would be ever a Streets of Rage 4 or anybody to do it. I didn't think they would do it justice. And let me say, they did Streets of Rage some justice because the music is excellent. I gotta say, Yuzo's compositions in there are the best. I love his stuff. Some people have said, oh, I didn't really like the music for Streets of Rage 4. And it's like, okay. But it's kind of one of those things. I have the CD in my truck and I play it all the time. And it's one of those things where, if you just play through the game once or twice, I think the music might have an impact. But if you play it on loop, like sometimes I do when I'm driving, some of those tracks are unreal. Like one of my favorite is Mr. Y and Miss Y as well. Those are both from Yuzo. I love that. I also like They're Back by Yuzo. That's a really good track. That's kind of the first stage music. And I've got to say that I really enjoy the music. Funky HQ is also a very, very good song. There's a lot to like here. And maybe one day I can meet Yuzo Koshiro and get him to sign this. That would be awesome stuff. Okay. I swear to God, I'm going to really go in depth and talk about this game one day because I haven't enough. And this is the soundtrack for Ikaruga by Treasure. I first played it on the Dreamcast back in the 2000s, and I was blown away by the mechanics of it. I thought it was so fascinating how you change from black to white and to avoid certain projectiles. Fascinating stuff. They did a really good job on this game. I will actually go on record and say I think it's one of the best shooter games of all time, shmup games of all time. I think it's number one for me. If I was to pick, it's definitely there. Probably in the episodes over the years, you've heard it playing in the background in at least 80 episodes, I swear, because I always play the music for this. Okay, this is a bit of a strange one because I've had some happy things to say here, right? Let me say, I was so excited to get this soundtrack. I ordered it off the Square Enix website, and I'm like, come on, please hurry up and show up. Because what we do here, me and my wife, this is really fun to do. On a Sunday, we play records all in the afternoon. That's the kind of thing we do. Kim picks a record, she listens to it, I listen to one, and we have some dancing time with the baby. And so this is kind of like a really relaxed, chill Sunday thing for us to do. So I really wanted the soundtrack. I kept imagining me on the couch being able to listen to this. I was like, I can't wait. So it showed up. One of my favorite soundtracks, Final Fantasy VIII, the soundtrack here on vinyl from the Square Enix store. What's up? What is up with this? It wasn't cheap either, and I think that's the thing that kind of gets me. I am not a record specialist by any means, or an audiophile, or anything like that. All I know is this: I have records from the 1960s up till now that sound amazing on my player. They sound excellent. Yeah, a little bit of hiss and pop sometimes, but that's okay. But not too. Usually, they're really good. For some reason, the style of vinyl that they are pressing, and it's not just this one. The Final Fantasy VIII soundtrack, and also the remake soundtrack, and also the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack. I own all of those as well. There's something weird with the vinyl that you're using or something. It pops and the hum is so loud. It goes on just those records. Not any other in my collection do that. And I have over 100 vinyl. So I don't know what is going on with what Square Enix is doing or who they're getting to press their discs. But it's weird because I'm like, I got my wife to listen. I'm like, what does that sound like? She's like, yeah, it doesn't sound very good. I'm like, I don't know why. And then I just grab something from like data discs, put it in, sounds perfect. Every data disc I ever put in sounds great. Where this, for some reason, the music sounds good, but the hum and the pop is so distracting that it takes away from the experience, and I don't know why. So if anybody knows, please teach me. Let me know down below. But out of 100 records, only 3 do it, and they're the Square Enix ones. I'm kind of guessing it's kind of something to do with the way they're pressing it and all that. Okay, story time. These are some pretty cool things here. First of all, there's a store in Vancouver here that we go to called Willow Video Games. And me and Rob have been going to it for 20 plus years. I even think it's been there for nearly 30 years. But we've only been going for the last 20 plus years. Great used video game store. I'm able to get, lots of deals there, lots of cheap prices and games, and we love going. And it's just one of those things. I go visit Rob, and it's right by his house. We always go there. Where on Twitter, somebody had posted to me, hey, John, you better get over to Willow Video Games. They're closing down. And I'm like, and it just felt like my heart stopped. I'm like, no, not another place. Because, this year has been a crazy year for restaurants closing and a lot of people losing their businesses. It's heartbreaking. And it's like, no, not another one that we really care about. And so I tagged Rob on it, and Rob was really upset. And then I got in touch with Rob, and we have to go down. I'm like, oh my God, it's the last week before they close. We were devastated. And then 2 days later, I guess somebody was Facebooking them or something like that, the Willow Video Games themselves. And so they finally made a Twitter account, an official Willow Video Games Twitter account, and they came in and said, no, we're not closing down. Where did that rumor start from? And so that started a fun argument with this guy who started it saying that it was closing down. We're like, what the heck are you saying this for? The place is not closing down. And so I subscribed to Willow Video Games on Twitter, and they subscribed to me. And so that was cool. And then that was the end of it. Where something great came out of that. Going through my Twitter one day, and I see Willow Video Games had posted that they have used video games come in all the time, right? They posted that there was NeoGeo games for sale in the store. Somebody traded them in, and these were for sale, and I'm like, oh my God. And I just grabbed my phone, and I phoned them up, and I'm like, hey, do you have those NeoGeo games in? They're like, yeah. I'm like, can you put them on hold? I'll be there in like half an hour. And they're like, yeah, like take it easy on the road. Don't cause an accident or anything. I'm like, no, it's fine. So I busted super fast out there. And I got there because there was 2 games out of all the NeoGeo games I had that I didn't have. And they really meant something to me. And they were, here we go, Top Players Golf and The Super Spy. And I can't tell you how excited I get when I get NeoGeo games out of the wild. You know, from going to a store and buying it from a store. That's incredible. These are things you do not see anymore in stores. I really wish you did a little bit more, but my wallet can only handle so many of these. And the reason why I got Top Players Golf is because when I first saw the NeoGeo in my local arcade, this was the last game that I needed to get because I have Magician Lord, I have Baseball Stars, I have NAM 1975, but it was Top Players Golf was the other one. There was 4 games in this one cabinet. I really needed this, and it's kind of a fun old school game. Obviously the NeoGeo is old school now, but old school awesome retro, and just to see those beautiful pixel artwork all throughout and of the fields and all that, I thought it just was stunning. I was like, yes, I was so excited to get this. And then the Super Spy is kind of like a first-person sprite-based action game where you're punching, villains and stuff like that. It's a fun game. You get your knife out and you're stabbing people. The graphics at the time were breathtaking. They took your breath away because you'd never seen sprite-based graphics that large on the screen with that much animation. And the NeoGeo was exciting to me then. It's really exciting to me now. And when I got into the store and I said, hey, do you have those NeoGeo games? They're like, oh, you're the guy who phoned. I said, yeah. And they're like, how did you know we had these NeoGeo games in the back? I said, well, they were on Twitter. And I guess because they're so new to Twitter, they're like, oh, I guess the owner tweeted that out. I guess he took a picture in the back and tweeted it out, and I saw it right away, and so I was able to snag these. And I told them, I said, you know what? These are really going to a good home, somebody who will really love and appreciate them, which I certainly do. NeoGeo games bought out of a store. Unbelievable in 2020. Okay, this is another one that I picked up. I had to grab this. And that is Ys Origin on the Nintendo Switch by .emu. Falcom as well. It was a limited run game. Had to get this. Now, my history with Ys Origin is an interesting one. I was thinking about it the other day that I first played it on the PS4, but it was a PC game before that, and I never played it, and I kind of had this attitude where I was like, oh, I don't have a PC that can handle that game. Back in the I didn't really have a very good PC, let me be honest. And I was like, I can't play it, and I kind of brushed it off. I just said, whatever, like that. And it wasn't until I played it on the PS4 that I realized this is in my top 5 Ys games of all time. It is an extraordinary game. It's an extraordinary game. The balance and the fun and the grind of it go hand in hand, and it's also an origin story, which I really like, talking about Ys beforehand and the kind of the religion that existed before Ys Books 1 and 2. So this was really fascinating to find out about it, like the Knights of Ys. I was like, oh, that is so awesome. And the game is a lot of fun, and that's where it wins. It's not just an Ys game, it's a lot of fun because of the grinding. And I mean, it's so addicting. I said that in my original review, like it was ridiculous. I remember leaving to go out to do some shopping and I said, hey Kim, take my controller and just keep going back and forth down this hallway, keep killing those enemies. And she did, just to build up our level and stuff like that. So big recommendations to Ys Origin. I have it on every system now. I think I'm happy. I think I am. Now, in the beginning of the year, in January, I was really, really sick. And I knew Rob was coming over I thought I was getting over my pneumonia. And I was just kind of getting over it. I was on antibiotics and I knew Rob was coming over. And I was like, oh, I was just very low energy. And this was the game that I wanted to get for me and Rob to sit and play that night, because we were going to do some drinking and just try to pretend that that I was okay. And this is before we knew about COVID. This is like, we didn't know anything about that. I just thought I had pneumonia and stuff like that. And I've had a respiratory specialist now that thinks I did have COVID. So for anybody who guessed that I may have, I probably did. Didn't know it. But what happened is, after I was getting over that sickness, that's when I got really sick with something else that destroyed all the muscles in my diaphragm. It was ridiculous, a viral infection. But anyways, back to the games. This is the game that I wanted to get for me and Rob to hang out with on my birthday, and I didn't pick it up, but I picked it up because there was a sale, and I got this for 49 bucks, and I was happy. Mario Tennis Aces. Really excited to get this. I don't talk about it on the channel a lot, but I really enjoy sports games. It's funny, look at this. I just showed a golf game, Top Players Golf. I really like those style of things. It was like systems like the NeoGeo that got me into that, like Baseball Stars that got me into playing that, and Virtual Tennis was another game that got me into playing, like, say, tennis style games. So I really enjoy things like Mario Tennis and things like that. I really am at home with it. I like the cartoony graphics. I like the fan service of all the levels and all the super attacks that you can get. I really love this stuff. So I'd been putting this off for a while. I'm like, I gotta get Mario Tennis Aces and put it on the shelf because it has to be there. Now, you heard me say earlier on that Ikaruga was one of my favorite shooting games of all time. It definitely is. And guess what just came out from Nicholas? 2 special edition versions of the game, and I ordered them both. I had to have them both because the legend returns, as it says on the back. And my frothing demand for this game has increased, as the old IGN sticker that used to be on the box for the GameCube version. But I wanted to have this on modern systems, and oh my god, I do. And it even comes with an exclusive Ikaruga model kit inside. I guess you build it and put it together type of thing, but very stoked to get this. These showed up, I think these showed up a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, oh my god, I have Ikaruga on modern systems and physical versions of them. Super stoked to get this. There's just something about the play mechanics that I get is so addicting. And I used to watch people not just do speed runs on it, but do like go through the levels without getting hit, without losing a life. And back in the day, I'd wake up in the morning. I remember I'd be like doing this on the Dreamcast going, today's the day. And I practice to be the best Ikaruga player I could possibly be. I really aspire to be a great player at the game, and I'm okay. But I aspire to be awesome at it because I look at some of the people who play this game and I'm in like awe of the way they play the game. You know, go check it out online. People who play this game really well, it's nothing short of incredible. Okay, here's a game that I am super, super excited about and kind of came out of nowhere for a lot of us out there, and that is Sukuna of Ruin, right here by XC Games. It's got a little bit of a foil look to it there. Have you guys heard about this game? Because I have, and it wasn't even on my radar. It wasn't any of those things. I didn't even know it was coming out. I knew nothing about the game. All of a sudden, it was there, and everybody's talking about it on Twitter. And I'm like, what is this? What is this? And then I'm like, it's an action RPG crafting farm simulating game? I'm like, what? But then I started looking at the graphics and they look so gorgeous. And I'm like, look at the action. It looks so kinetic. And I'm like, this looks like a lot of fun. And I'm like, but wait, what is this? Because it's so strange. So I am somebody who is looking forward to sitting down and giving this a go. Have any of you guys played this game? What do you give it out of 10? I'd really be curious. I haven't watched any reviews because I don't want anything spoiled. Because I'm telling you, sometimes the modern reviews, and I really try to stay away from it in my reviews, they spoil the whole game in a review. They'll show you the end boss or something. And I don't want to see that. I like to play games and be surprised, right? Because it's supposed to be a personal experience with you and the game. Like, I don't want to see everything that's coming out. We live in a time now where everything is spoiled for you before you even get the game. Like, even every week with The Mandalorian, watching that, I make sure I watch it as soon as it comes out because I know it'll be spoiled on Twitter in about 30 seconds. And we live in that kind of time. I also come from the time when you'd see a game on a shelf and you'd say, what's that game about? just based on the box art. And so I have that mentality a lot with games I'm interested in. I just want to know what it's about by playing it and experiencing it. So maybe I'll come back in the future in games I'm playing and talk about this. I probably definitely will. Okay, we live in a crazy year this year, obviously, with everything that's going down. And the one thing that I do want to say is, if there is any video game stores, local video game stores in your neighborhood, mom and pop run shops, try to support them if you can. Go in there and buy a game, even if it's a $20 game. Go in and try to show your support. And I try to do that with my local video game stores. There's a place near me called Press Start. Great guys in there, really knowledgeable, super nice. And it's been a tough time for everybody. And whenever I'm in there, I always try to pick something up. And something unbelievable happened. So I'm in there talking to the owners, and I'm getting ready to leave. And a guy comes in and he says, "Hey, do you guys have any Switch games?" And they're like, "Yeah, but we have some in the back that we haven't put out yet." And so I was like, wait a second, I'm going to hang out for a second here and see what Switch games there are. And this is one of those moments, I swear to God, I had this psychic weird thing happen. Because he's going in the back and he goes, "I got some Switch games, and I also had some limited run stuff came in." And this is nuts that I even said this. I said, "Do you have thimbleweed?" And he goes, I think I do." I don't even know why I said that at that moment. What are the chances of him having that? So he brings out a big stack of Switch games. The other guy's looking at it and he's like, "Oh, okay, cool." And yes, Thimbleweed Park, the special edition. This is by Limited Run. This is the Nintendo Switch version. So this is an interesting one. And I sat and I looked and I'm like, I can't believe you have this. I can't believe the amount of nights I sit on eBay trying to find one reasonably priced. Now, what's my history with this? Me and Kim, back in the day, downloaded it on the Xbox, the Xbox One. And we started to play it and we fell in love with the game. I thought it was so awesome. It's like an old point and click adventure from the 90s, the 80s, 90s, where we were playing as two characters, kind of like straight out of the X-Files. It gives you that feeling, and you're trying to solve a murder in this small town area, and you get to meet a lot of interesting characters, collect a lot of items, and solve this mystery. And by the time we had started playing it and falling in love with it, this release had come and gone. So I didn't even know about it, and I was like, oh my God, I need to get that game. It means so much to me. And so it was so great, I was able to pick this up in, of all places, a retail store. And it was used, but it's in such great condition. And you get to see me fanboy out a little bit here. I love this stuff. Like, it comes with a little map, and this reminds me of like an Earthbound type of thing, right? Reminds me of an Earthbound type of thing. And the game's in here, the little newspaper clippings are in here. Really charming stuff, and it just adds to it. It's one of those things where I really want to own the game, but I really wanted to own this collector's edition by Limited Run. I thought it was so well done, kind of giving me that Earthbound vibe, and it's one of those things that's going to sit on my shelf, and I'm very, very proud to have this, for sure. So I'm taking us out with a couple of books, a couple of Dungeons and Dragons things here. Tash's Cauldron of Everything. What wonderful witchery is this? Another great book to add to my 5th edition collection. So this book gives you brand new rule options for the player's handbook, including new subclasses, new spellbook options, spells for both player characters, monsters, magical tattoos, group patrons, and other tasty goodies. There's a lot of things in this book. Another beautiful Dungeons and Dragons stocking stuffer for anybody that you know who plays D&D. So I go to a local used bookstore near me, and I like to support this little bookstore. I sometimes go in if I have old graphic novels, and I'll give them to them. They're an older couple, and I just want to see them stay in business. So I say, hey, I finished reading these. Maybe you guys want to like sell these and stuff like that so they can make a profit, so they can stay in business. And so I become friendly with them, and they know that I love the Discworld series. I really love that series of books. I think it's fantastic. And one thing that I especially like with that series is the artwork. I love the artwork with those books. And so the owner of the store said, hey, I have an item that came in that you might be interested in. He goes, it's the art of Discworld. And it's the Josh Kirby Discworld portfolio right here. And this book goes for a little bit of money on eBay. And because I looked it up afterwards. But, you know, the owner of this bookstore, he's such a nice guy. You know, I do him favors, he does me favors. He gave this to me for $25. And I thought that was so amazing of him. And I'm a big artist. This art is extraordinary. It's utterly extraordinary for the book series. And I only buy the books that have the artwork on them because there's such beautiful paintings. I mean, paintings from a very, very different time and something that I really, really do appreciate a lot. So very happy to get this and add that to the collection. For me being an artist, I'm going to go in there and definitely study his art technique because I think it's really imaginative. The last item of the day. Oh, maybe you saw it already. I'm going to hold it for a second. Oh, can I hold? I can't keep it secret. I believe, I'm going to say this right now, I believe this is the greatest graphic novel ever written. And it's not Watchmen. Watchmen is definitely up there. I love Watchmen. But I read this summer, and I've been wanting to do it for many, many years, but I finally picked it up off Amazon, and I was like, let's give this a read. I was absolutely hooked. You couldn't tear me away from this. And that is the story of the Meta Barons by Jodorowsky. Hope I pronounced his name correctly there. This is an extraordinary book. It is the story of how the Meta Barons became the Meta Barons. And that's just, it's way too complicated for me to even describe what this story is. Yeah, it would take me a long, long time. But I'll say this, the artwork is some of the best artwork I have ever seen in a graphic novel. The story is so unusual and so gripping, and it's a little intense. This isn't for younger readers. This is a very mature book. There's a lot of blood and guts at times, which, you know, for me, I think is great, but for younger readers, not so much. But the imagination in here, I mean, as an aspiring graphic novel artist myself, I would just give up now myself, for me personally, because I will never do a work that would even touch the Meta Barons. And what they've done here with a storyline that spans generations and so many characters and so many unusual plot twists with so many, I know I'm going to say it again, imaginative things that happen. This is a book that if you're into science fiction or anything like that, this is from like the old heavy metal days, you're going to love it. And you're going to eat this up for breakfast because I did. And this is one of those books that I'm going to come back to in a couple more years and read again because there's so much to take in. You cannot take all of this in on your first go. It's such a heavy read and it's so fascinating, but it's so simple at the same time, right? You flow into it very nicely, and then you're in this world, and you're going, how did somebody imagine all of this? And I think with Jodorowsky, what's amazing about him is he was trying to get the Dune movie made back in the 70s, and he was working with Mobius and H.R. Giger, so many great artists and things like that, and he had so many great concepts for he wanted to do for Dune, where they didn't go into Dune, because Dune never got made, unfortunately. His movie never got made. He decided to channel them into the Meta Barons. So it's fascinating because I know a lot of what was happening with his Dune project. I've really studied that over the years. They are all in here. A lot of the ideas are in here. And that's, I think, what made it even more, fresh for me, because I was like, oh, wow, that's that idea that he was talking about doing in Dune. It's shown up here. This is the graphic novel, I believe, of our lifetimes. I really do. I really, really think it is. There's a lot of other good graphic novels out there, like Sandman and stuff like that, but this, I'm telling you, jump into the world of the Meta Barons, and you won't leave the same. I'm telling you. You'll go in and you'll see the artwork and you'll read the story and you'll be transported away, and you'll say to yourself, they couldn't even ever make this into a miniseries. It would cost billions of dollars. Billions, because the budget with the drawings alone for the imagination skyrocketed through the roof, man. Through the roof. Sorry, I had to come in. I've been waiting to talk about this for a couple of months. I'm really glad I could do that. So guys, that is the 50th episode of New Game Stuff. I can't believe I've done 50 of these, and I'm still having so much fun talking about all of these great games, great music, great books, great literature, some great stuff in here. So anyways, guys, until next time.